Welcome to my four-part series in digital pattern drafting. My name is Alyssa Ritter and I am a professional costume designer for theater and digital media. In each episode, I will demonstrate a different approach to drafting patterns in Clo 3D. And in this video, I will use traditional pattern drafting methods to create and manipulate a period sleeve. Alright, let's start by using the file from the previous tutorial in which I taught you how to draft a period bodice using the 3D pen. Now we're going to make the sleeve for the bodice. In order to do this, we need to know how long the sleeve needs to be, so I'm going to use uh, the linear measure tool, or how about just the basic tape measure for the avatar. And I'm going to start right up here where the sleeve is going to attach and then go all the way to the wrist. And it looks like about 22 inches will be a good measurement for that sleeve, and I can always adjust that later. So I'm going to go ahead and double click, and I'll just delete that measurement because I don't need it anymore. So moving over into the 2D window, I'm going to go ahead and use the S command key to pull up the rectangle pattern drafting tool, and I'm going to click anywhere in the 2D window and type in that length, which was 22 inches, and I'm just going to make a square that's 22 by 22. Alright, and now I'm going to start drafting the actual lines of the sleeve for real. The first thing that I want to do from here is to create an elbow line, which is the length of the sleeve that's divided in half plus 2 inches. And I'm going to just send that down from the top here. Let's go ahead and offset as internal line and type 13 inches. And then let's do that. Next line we're gonna make is it's the cap line. So it's where the sleeve is going to meet at the armpit. And for this period, I'm going to do a cap height of 6 inches. And that's an equation based on the length of the sleeve. So if it's 18th century, the cap height is going to be a quarter of the sleeve length. 19th century, which is what we're doing here, it's going to be a third of the sleeve length. And if it's contemporary, it's going to be a third plus half inch of the sleeve length. So for this period, if I'm going to go ahead and offset as internal line and then type in 6, which is about a third of 22, and that's going to end up right there. All right, so this next line needs to be the length of the armscye itself. So to get to know that, I need to go to the Z tool, or the edit pattern tool, and then click and then shift click around the whole armscye to get that number, and it's about 15 inches. So we really want it's the armscye plus a half of an inch, but since this is almost 15, I'm just going to go with 7.5 inches. So let's go to 8 inches. So I'm going to get my internal line tool, which is the G key command. I'm going to start at this. This is going to be the top of my sleeve. And I'm just moving this down, and I'm watching this black number that's following the line, and I want that to hit 8 inches. So that looks about good. And from there, I'm just going to go straight down and finish the line at a right angle at the bottom. All right, now I need to add some curve to this sleeve cap right here. To do that, I'm going to go to the X tool. I could call it the X tool, but it's add point or split line. And I'm going to go ahead and let me just make sure I'm only selecting this line and not this line and this line. Right click, uniform split, and let's divide it into 3 segments. And then I'm going to go ahead to this last one here, and I'm going to divide that one into 2 segments. And I just do that by right-clicking this line, and that window pops up. Once that's there, I actually don't need this line anymore, so I can go ahead and delete it. And now I need to add a little bit more guidelines to this curve. And so this needs to kind of come out 1/8 of the cap height, which is 0.75 inches. So I'm just going to grab my edit point tool and drag it out, trying to make a right angle to the line that it's coming off of. Right click and do 0.75. Okay, and then going the opposite direction with this inside line, and then it's going to be half that amount, so 0.375. Great. So that's a pretty curve. That's a pretty angular sleeve cap we've got. Let's go ahead and add some curves using the C key command tool that's up here, the edit curvature tool. And I'm just going to give it some generic curve in here. I'm going to be more specific with the curve when I go into this next step, which I'm going to go back to the edit pattern tool. And when I do that, you can see the Bezier handles. That's these little blue things. They pop up. They are controlling the curve. And I'm going to make this one near the top kind of follow this top line, because that'll make sure I don't get a pointy sleeve head. And same at the bottom here. I'm just going to make sure that one kind of has a nice, it kind of has swoops down, and I'm going to do that by lining this Bezier handle up with this cap line. And then these other two, do you see how they're kind of angular? If I move these Bezier handles independently, there's always going to be some sort of chonky like bump there. But if I hold the Alt key while I click on this point, it'll actually uniformly adjust these Bezier handles in relationship to each other, which is really nice because that'll make this nice smooth curve, which is what we want. So let's go ahead and adjust those until we get a sleeve that we like the look of, and that looks about like a sleeve. I'm going to go ahead and move this one back because I think they're competing, and that looks pretty good. All right, now that we have the drafted outline of the pattern, the block for the pattern, we can go ahead and make the actual pattern. And we're going to do this by using the trace tool, which is over here. The hotkey is I. So we'll go ahead, and once we have that selected, we're going to click on every piece that we want to be a part of our new sleeve. And I'm just holding down Shift as I click. I'm not going to click on these internal lines because they're going to transfer automatically. And if I click them, it'll confuse it and try to give me like one of these blocks instead. So once all of these lines are clicked, except for the internal lines, I'm going to right click and trace as pattern. And that'll just give me my very own sleeve pattern that I don't have to if I mess up, I don't have to draft this again. I've traced it off and I can work from here. Alright, now that I have this, I'm going to go ahead and unfold. I'm going to go to the edit pattern tool with the Z key command, grab the center line, and then I'm going to unfold. I'm not going to unfold symmetric editing with sewing because I'm going to have another sleeve that will be the symmetric pattern of this sleeve. So just unfold. All right, when that's done, we want to grab these. I can delete this side and this side, and then I'm going to grab this internal line using the Z tool still, and I'll grab this one as well. Let's go ahead and right click, and then we're going to extend, trim, and add point to pattern outline. All right, so that got cleaned up all nice. So we're going to sew this one piece sleeve to this many-pieced armscye. The best way to do that is to use the MN sewing tool, and that's up here. If I click here, here's the segment sewing tool. We really want the MN freeze sewing tool. There's no hotkey for it, which is a shame because I use it all the time. And before we do this, what we want to imagine is that this seam right down here along the side is going to line up right under the arm. So there's not currently a seam on this bodice that's right under the arm because it's a period bodice. Let's help ourselves out by putting a notch there. So that looks like it's on this piece right in the center. I'm going to grab the notch tool right here, just click it, and I'm going to say this is going to be our underarm seam, as that's where that's going to line up. And because a sleeve distributes, the sleeve head is larger than the arms that it goes into, we want to concentrate the fullness of the sleeve at the top of the arm. And to make sure that happens, we want to start sewing at the arm size on, or at the underarm seam on both sides, and then distribute what's left at the top once we know how much space there is. I'll show you what I mean because that's a little bit hard to describe. All right, so we've got our notch. Let's go back to the M to N free sewing tool. And let's see. Oh, before I do that, we're going to help ourselves out by figuring out what side our sleeve is on. Oh, look, there's our reference pattern over there. We could just deactivate that so it doesn't get in the way. All right, so clicking on our sleeve pattern, I'm going to do Shift F and make our arrangement points appear, and then I'm going to go ahead and click on my avatar to make the sleeve wrap around. And I did this before so that I can see which side is the front of the sleeve and which side is the back of the sleeve, so I don't accidentally sew it uh, wrong. Okay, that being said, let's go back to the MN free sewing tool, long awaited. Okay, I'm just going to run this alongside the sleeve, and I'm watching as I'm running it alongside the sleeve where the point is showing up over here, and then vice versa. So, all right, this is the front, which means, and then this is the front of my pattern there. Great. So if I click here at the base of that armpit, and then I'm going to end at this point right here, press enter. Great. Now I'm going to start at the notch. I'm going to click the notch, go to the end of that pattern, and then click. And then I'm going to the next pattern and then click. And then I'm going to keep going until I get this deep blue reference line, and I'm going to go all the way to there and then click. And then I know that this perfectly lines up into into there. Once that's done, I can press enter, and I've just sewn those one to one. I'm going to do the same thing on the back. I'm going to start at the underarm. I'm going to go all the way up to this dot right here. Click. I'm going to press enter to say I'm done sewing this side. And then I'm going to go back to the armpit seam, click, or the armpit notch, click, click, and I'm just waiting, for that blue dot. And there it is, right there. All right. And then once that's ready to go, I just go ahead and press enter. And now I know the remaining part of the cap goes between here, 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 and here. And I can go ahead and just do that in one swoop. So that's the remaining part of that sleeve. And then that's going to start here at that notch, click, click, and then come down here. And even though the dot is all the way down here, I'm going to stop when I meet this sleeve, and it's going to distribute all of that ease evenly into the top there. So I'm going to go ahead and press enter and then simulate, see what happens. All right, that actually looks pretty good. All I got to do now is sew this underarm seam. Okay. Yes, yes. It's got a lot of height there, but that's going to come in handy when we go to make this fuller sleeve. As you can see, there's lots of height here. And, but before we do that, let's go ahead and make our cuff a little bit more narrow. And I actually regret adding a point here now because I want this to be a smooth line. I'll show you what I mean. When I go to move this, it's going to stop at the elbow, but I really don't want it to. Let's see what happens if we move it in an inch on that side and an inch on that side. Oh, an inch on that side. And when I move this in, I hold shift to help it like follow the line. Yeah, that looks like a nice cuff. Um, yeah, she's got nice, let's check our reference. Well, she doesn't have a hand in there, so it's hard to tell. Yeah, let's leave it at that. That seems like a nice length. But I want to make this an even, I want to make this even, so I'm just going to move my line over. I have to delete this dot, and then move it over again, delete this dot, and then I'm going to do the now redo this where I right click, extend, trim, and add point to pattern outline. And there we go. It's a nice little sleeve that we're working with there. All right, now we have our sleeve and it is sewn and it looks great, but it looks pretty contemporary. If we look at our reference, this is a two-piece sleeve here. So here's the outer sleeve. It's got a nice curve to it. And then right here, this dash line is the under sleeve. So that's two pieces, and we only have a one-piece sleeve here. So we can make this into a two-piece sleeve, and actually it'll be pretty easy to figure it out because it's already sewn in place. All we want to do is go to our edit pattern tool, and we want to shift click both of these side seams and then right click offset as internal line, and I think 1.5 inches is the right amount to offset that. Go ahead and do that on the other side. Offset as internal line. Okay, and now I'm going to grab both these lines, right click, and let's do cut and sew. So I'm basically cutting off the sides of this sleeve to make two pieces that are going to become the undersleeve. And actually, let me go ahead, if I go to the this tool up here, which is Edit Sewing, key Command B, and I can shift select both of these seams, right click, and then click merge, and that will be my underpiece. So now let me go ahead and simulate. Now I've got an over, like an upper sleeve and an under sleeve, so that's already more period. But now I need to get this curve in there. Um, well, the first thing I'm going to do is actually I'm going to change the grain on this because it's wonky. So I'm going to do the same thing that I did when we traced out all of these patterns and we had to change the grain. I'm going to go to the Edit Texture tool, or the T command. I'm going to right click the grain line, and then I'm going to say align grain parallel to selected, and I'm just going to choose this side here, and that'll fix my grain. Going back to the edit pattern tool, transform pattern tool, just select, right click, rotate, and then reset along grain direction. And this looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and delete this bottom little dot there with the Z tool, and then just line it up inside of inside of my inside the other sleeve pattern. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna line those dots up, and that'll be good. Great, that's there, and then I'm gonna just adjust this length. Perfect. Okay, so to make these curve, oh yeah, that actually, I want them to line up at this elbow seam. So let me undo what I just did. Go back. You, my friend, need to come and line up at the elbow. Perfect. Okay, we're gonna ignore you, and we're gonna just go ahead and grab you and move you up as well. Okay. So we need to just give this a nice angle, and to do that, we're going to select all of these. We want it to angle to the front, so let me just gotta remind myself which side the front is. If I click here, okay, this is the front, and I want it to curve towards the front because that's the way the elbows go. So with the Z tool, I'm just going to select all those, hold shift, and right click. Let's do, oh, there's a problem here. As dedicated as I was to the art of extending that elbow line to the ends and adding a point, I need to do it again because I just added new, I did new things. So I need to grab that elbow line, extend, trim, and add point to pattern outline. There we go. I'm going to delete this little dot here. Oh my, there you go, my friend. Um, Add point to pattern outline. There we go. And now I can select all of these and move them to the side, and it's only going to move it from the elbow down towards the front 1 inch. There we go. There's our curve. We want to now rotate this so that this cuff is at a right angle. Right now this is a really weird angle for the cuff to be. So there's actually a tool here that is the edit pattern tool, and I can go to transform point slash segment. Click that. And now I can actually select all of these points and then rotate them until I have a right angle in my sleeve, which is really cool. Because it was already sewn in, I don't have to worry about trying to sew all these pieces to all these pieces, which is convenient. And yeah, you can see there's the top sleeve and there's the undersleeve. Let's go ahead and grab both of these. Our controller command D to duplicate with symmetric editing. It automatically puts it right here on this other arm. So we simulate and we've got two rather long period sleeves. All right, there's just one more thing to do. We've got these cute, little period sleeves, but they don't have nearly as much volume or finesse or pizzazz or drama as these sleeves do, so we need to add some fullness. It looks like these period sleeves were pleated, and that's fun. We can do that. We can also add fullness to the top of the sleeves. So I'm going to do one side with pleats and one side just with gathers, and I'll show you how to do that. I'm going to go ahead and select this pattern, and I'm going to remove linked editing so that I can work with it independently. I'm going to move my underarms piece out of the way because ultimately it's not going to be affected here. And for this one, I'm going to add fullness. And there's, when we slash and spread, we use fullness point, but when we're adding like a design feature, we can use fullness line, which is super fun and it saves so much time. So with fullness line selected, I just want to go, I think I want the fullness to end at the elbow, so I'm going to go back and I want to go ahead and get the Z tool really quick and cut and sew that seam right there. All right, so that's great. All right, going back to my fullness line tool, I'm just going to start around here. It doesn't really work very well if you start right at the edge, so just start somewhere in the middle and end before you get to the other side. And then along the top, anywhere where you want that fullness to be, that's where you start clicking, and then you can stop clicking when you want it to end. I'm going to concentrate it in this section here because I happen to know that that's where I want my fullness to be. All right, this window immediately pops up, and it has the oh, I actually didn't consider this. So the direction, so whether it starts here or starts here, or adds fullness to both is an option as well. Your fullness line length and your slash line length. Okay, I have a hard time remembering which one of these is which, so I'm just gonna go ahead and see. Uh, I'm gonna undo this if it doesn't work. 5 point. Let's make that a 7. Oh, that was the wrong one, so I'm gonna undo that. Slash line length. Let's do 10. Let's add some drama here. All right, so you can see what's happening is it's imagining that there's a ton of lines that are slashing through and it's evenly spreading this out while evenly tapering back down to here. So I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, let's do it, and then let's simulate and see what happened. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. I think we could probably, I mean, like that's a lot of drama. So I know there's padding under there, but I think we can do more. So let's try that again. Let's go from here to here, here to here, and let's go instead of 10, let's do 15. See what happens. Oh yeah, much better. And I'm gonna go ahead and manually adjust this sleeve cap to give it some more height as well. There we go. That's good. And now all we have to do is merge these seams back together. I liked the grain of the bottom sleeve, so I'm going to click that one first. Or I'm going to right click on the bottom part of the sleeve and click with the um, what is this tool? The edit sewing tool, and then right click, and I'm going to say merge. It's going to pop that right back up, and it's made its way back. It's if it was true at any point to the underarm sleeve, it's still true. And that is a leg o' mutton sleeve. That looks awesome. All right, so on the other side, we're going to do something similar. Let's move our underarm out of the way. We're going to go to the Z key command, right click, cut and sew. And then I'm going to go to the pleat tool and pleats. That's all it says, pleats. And I'm going to click on the bottom, pretty central, And then I'm going to go straight up to this top. And it has me do one side at a time. Um, I don't really know how to do it all at once, but here we go. One side at a time. So just click either side. And it says slide, side deplete. So I selected that side, move my window out of the way so you can see what happens. And now I can pick how many pleats I want, and it's just gonna pleat it. It's amazing. And at some point it'll stop pleating it and it says, no, I'm not gonna do that anymore. So you'll know when you hit your limit. You could also adjust the depth of the pleats here. It just jumped off the screen because I made it so big, and also the interval. So you can really customize that. I'm just gonna do as many pleats as it'll let me get before it maxes out. Okay, 8 on that side. Press OK, and there that is. I can simulate, and there's all those pleats. We're looking very Elizabethan here before we merge these back to the bottom. So let's go back to this line, and now we're going to click the other side. Select this side to pleat, and again we're going to max out as many pleats as we can get. All right, let's do it. 7. Will I get one more? No, just 7. Okay, and then simulate. Oh yeah, that's good. Now, to merge this back, I think that the best thing to do is to let's go ahead and delete. Go to the Edit Pattern tool. Delete all of these lines. I'm going to have to go to the Edit Sewing and also delete all of these pleated sewing lines because they are just going to confuse it. And now that means I need to go to my Segment Sewing tool or the N hotkey and re-sew this. Oh no, I better just do let's do free sewing with the M because it's wants to stop at all of those notches. So just going from there to there, there to there, and now I can go to the Edit Sewing tool, the B hotkey, right click, and merge. And it's figured it out for me, thank God, because I didn't want to figure that out. Oh my gosh, look, so fun. So fun. I think, because there's still so much more height here, I'm just going to grab this and go straight up. See what happens. Oh yeah, there she is. Look at that. Wow, majestic. All right, so I actually think that's about it on this bodice. You can keep playing forever, but I'm pretty happy with how this looks. She just needs more padding in the back and a skirt, and she's good to go. So yeah, great job everyone if you made it this far. Um, you're a hero. So congratulate yourself and look forward to making more tutorials to share with you again soon.